there's no formal online gaming community at Clark, often because the internet connection is very bad. I did the internet gaming thing during my freshman year, and I found that I had to pay to get the dedicated line in my room in order to play. And for that reason, it's difficult to find and maintain a community like that, because it's a pretty heavy dedication of hardware, software, technical expertise, time, and money. And I think the way it is right now, where most of the gaming is on gaming consoles in person between the members, that seems to work really well for under SPOC's aegis. I played about once every 2 days about a year ago, but finally I didn't want to pay for a dedicated line, and just the novelty of it wore off. It's been about a year since I've gamed online against a total stranger, or even against an acquaintance of mine. So I would say that actually holds pretty true. Like, I could count on one hand the number of people who did the same thing as I, like who competitively played against total strangers online. There are a few people who did it on the Xbox Live arcade thing, but even that is very difficult here because it requires the dedicated broadband, and that's an investment of like $85 a semester, which few people are willing to throw out. So, I mean, I would say that I don't do the dedicated online gaming thing, and I can't think of too many other people who do. I played Ages of Empires 3, which was a real-time strategy game. And I found that in the lower levels of competitiveness, there was a real sense of camaraderie. There was a real appreciation of one another's skills and etc. But because the gaming world is anonymous, you also tend to find a lot of people for whom anonymity does not necessarily mean politeness, but instead means a freedom to act as one will. That takes place in all kinds of forms. As far as I understood it, since there's no ability to formally cheat, it was the use of underhanded tactics, or simply a belligerent attitude towards the other person. And the medium of the internet made it very disruptive to have another person shouting into their voice microphone obscenities at you as you execute a strategy or whatever. I know that I have a friend who played Halo over the connection on their Xbox at home, and he too found it to be camaraderie in most cases, and he and I both maintained friends who we had met online in that sense for a long time. But there was also this dark underbelly of people who were very vicious and just very underhanded in their manners online, and we certainly felt that online gave them the freedom to act as they wanted to, and perhaps not as they would act in personal contact. There's a funny story though. I played against the same guy maybe 10 or 12 times. He told me early on that he was from Mexico, and he was part of a gaming clan from Mexico. So I was like, okay, cool. So brush up on my Spanish while I talked to him, etc. We were like finally like laughing. He continually beats me, and I assume he's about my same age. This is last year, so I'm a freshman in college. Turns out that he's an 8th grader, and he's talking to me about how uncomfortable he is watching his friend make out with his first girlfriend in the movie theater. And I'm like, wait, what? Oh shit! I'm being beaten by someone who's like 5 years younger than me. We stayed friends, but he certainly never let me forget that. I've never met anyone in person who I've known online. If ever that was suggested to me, never had, but I mean, I set out my contingent rules. There's just too much risk. You know, you're too easily a target if you're a gamer online, because it means you've got income, time to game, a computer, income. If I've already said income, then we're going to say it again. It means that you have the means to play, and you're not just on a chat room or something like that. So it automatically means that if someone is potentially of the interest of defrauding you or anything of the like, there's automatic opportunity. So I've never met anyone that I've talked to online in that capacity. I wouldn't want to. You know, they're acquaintances, not really friends. You know, I'll talk to them politely. There's my one friend who I knew played, and like I knew him in person before I knew him online, but that's the only exception. I mean, like, and that's not to say that there weren't people online who I could talk with in that way, but it's also in most of those cases, the friendship and the relationship that I gain with them extends as far as the game. And when you play a game competitively, that says something. You are playing the game competitively. You are working very hard to be very good. I know that the reason why I quit is because it took a lot of my time to think of good strategies and etc. So it means that you do have a very clear common ground, but that's all the common ground applies to. You know, I could play Dungeons and Dragons or Risk or something with my friends here and then subsequently do something else. I couldn't go out and get Chinese takeout with a friend I had online. And so there really is a deeper sense of camaraderie with traditional in-person games, as far as in my experience, because you're there, you see them, they're a very real person to you. You're not basing your perceptions of them off a digital avatar or whatever. Any online community that doesn't have a game with it is got a very strong stigmata set against it now. One that I kind of hold as well, because it speaks to a very clear discomfiture with normal life, and it's kind of what a lot of people who game online, like, not fear, but keep away from. You know, very few people online would be willing to say that, like, yes, my online life is more important than my in real life. But for the people who play those kind of like Second Life games, the alternate community games where the online community takes on the form of one's socialization on a day-to-day basis, that's like you're making a break with reality in a lot of ways, and I find that a little spooky. Second Life kind of games I still have a problem with, because it's still an active choice against what you're doing in daily life. And as a result, that means automatically that for one reason or another, you have a problem with natural communication. You know, unless the Second Life is like your way of communicating because you live in the Arctic Circle, you're still in some way choosing a medium in which you are replacing everyday life communication with this other form of communication. It's still a little uncanny valley is the term, I think. It's where it's close enough to humanity and human interaction to be realistic, but not so close that it actually feels natural. It's like, you know, wearing a mask. But I think there's a lot of hope. I mean, you know, I think there's a lot of hope for internet to be a far more natural form of communication. I think we're still in the first generation of it, and I think as long as we're in the first generation of it, we're still going to be a little at odds with it. I mean, it's entirely possible that within a generation, you know, a lot of the upper middle class is going to have like these Second Life accounts where they, you know, it may become like the next Victorian age, where the Victorian era expressed its more secretive desires through literature, and this age is going to express them through an online avatar capable of doing whatever outside the purview of judgment or law. So it's a curious question, and it kind of hinges on how advanced technology becomes and how widespread its use becomes. But I think the internet has the means and the potential to become a truly social instrument.